and you're listening to the Feast Foreplay podcast, and I'm here with Uma Ayelet Furman. Hi, Uma.
Hi, Susan. Thank you so much for having me on your podcast today. I'm excited to have a little chat with you.
Yes, I'm looking forward to that, and I'm going to give you the opportunity to introduce yourself more fully in a minute. And I'm just going to quickly, for people who've never heard of Feast and might be listening for the first time, just share a little bit. So Feast is the Festival of Embodiment and Sexual Transformation, and we run an annual festival in the hinterland of Northern New South Wales. And this year, 2026, our date, we're running that retreat from the 21st to the 24th of May. So we have a beautiful community that gathers there for people. So this podcast is an opportunity to meet some of our key facilitators and elders and get a sense of what we're all about. So Uma, thank you for giving us your time today. You're one of the leaders in this field of somatic sexology and an elder at Feast and a facilitator. Can you share a little bit with us about your work, what you're passionate about, what your unique offerings are?
Okay, thank you. I am part of the Institute of Somatic Sexology that runs practitioner trainings for people who are interested in learning more about sexuality and sex education, but I also have my own practice. I see clients, individuals, couples, people in alternative relationships, and I work with people who either have issues and concerns that they want to address around sexuality and relationships, or are simply curious and want to learn more. And I'm passionate about both of these spaces. I'm really passionate about providing a space for people to talk about things that are not working for them, that they'd like to change, and supporting them in creating that change in their lives and looking at how to make that happen. And I'm also super excited when people come to me and say, yeah, everything's fine, but I just know it can be even better. And when people look at sexuality as an area that they can grow in, that they can develop in the same way that we do a lot of personal development in lots of other areas. I'm loving that in the last few years, the idea of kind of sexual development, the idea that we can enrich erotic lives without anything needing to be wrong with them has become more mainstream, and more people are curious about it and are coming to explore. And it's such a pleasure to go into this space with people who where you can really harness curiosity and try different things and see what works for them. And I think when we develop in one area, other areas of our lives develop as well. It's kind of sometimes not even relevant where we start. So if someone decided to develop their erotic lives, other spaces in their lives grow and open up as well. And that's always a real joy to see.
Yeah, it's such a rich and wonderful offering, and you train practitioners as well to hold these spaces for other people, as well as doing it, offering sessions for clients.
Yeah, we've had the Institute for 16, maybe 17 years this year. So that's really exciting. And we teach different certificate programs. And I'm also teaching with a different group of people in interactive erotic education, which is another way of working. I'm really passionate about having a lot of practitioners who work in different ways to support more and more of the public. I think the more of us offer our knowledge, the more people will come to us, the more people can benefit. And different people like to work with different styles of practitioners in different ways, and there's something for everyone, really.
Yes, yes. And one of your offerings is resourcing us at Feast. And I mean, you've trained all the facilitators, all our facilitators are certified through the Institute. So you've trained them in that caliber of practitioner. That's all our facilitators. But you also show up year after year for us at Feast as an elder and facilitator. Do you want to just share a little bit about your recent experiences of Feast, your role, what you love about Feast?
Yeah, well, I've never been an elder until you asked me to be one a few years ago. And that was a bit confronting, to be honest. I thought, surely I'm not old enough to be an elder, but obviously I was. Uh, so that was an interesting space to walk into. And I've really enjoyed it. I really love community is so precious. And when it comes to eroticism, to sexuality, to be able to spend a few days in with a group of like-minded people, with a group of people who are interested in the same thing that you do is really, really quite precious. And it's not common. Yes, it's common if you are maybe in other conscious erotic communities are not common, and so to have the privilege to be part of one and to support one is really special to me. I love the inclusivity in the space. Everybody's welcome. There's some people that show up for the first time and they don't know anybody or anything, and other people who come every year and stay before and stay after and know everyone. But there isn't a hierarchy. There isn't a sense of, oh, you know less and I know more. There's none of that really happening. There's a lot of camaraderie. There's a lot of acceptance. There's a lot of support from everyone. And the way you organize the space is really inspirational. Like there's, people are, you can have your own space if you want to, but you're never left on your own, neglected. There's always someone looking out for you, someone making sure you're okay, something to do. It's just really, really wonderful. And I love being able to spend those days in your space, not having to organize anything for a change.
Yes,
And
all those logistics.
yeah,
Yeah.
that I don't have to worry about, and and so I can actually relax and connect with people and talk to people, which I don't get to do in my own training as much because I have to do all the logistics and all the teaching. So I do a lot less teaching than I would normally do, which I really enjoy. And then I get that sense of just chatting to people, sitting with people, hanging out, or going for a little walk, looking at all the beautiful greenery. So that's really
Yeah.
special.
Yeah, it's such a special container, and there is so much choice in it. You can be in the doing, or you can sit back in the quiet. You can be with people. You can be alone. It's a whole journey across. I love how it is a residential, so that container's created right from the start, and the elders, and it's held by the team, and people have quite a journey within that container. There's lots of twists and turns and growth and learning. Yeah, it's very special.
Mm.
One of the key things that as sexological body workers and Feast is based on is really this relationship to our own pleasure and our own body, which is quite a different to what the scripts are around sex and intimacy in our culture. It's often we're taught that sex and pleasure needs to involve another person, but the place we prefer to start is our relationship with our own body and our own pleasure. And I know that that's something you're really passionate about and facilitate for yourself and in your teachings and in your offerings. Can you share a little bit about why is this so important? Why is starting with ourselves and our own body so important?
Oh, for so many different ways. Uh, First of all, I see it as a kind of an anti-establishment act in a sense, because we grow up on this Disney fairy tale that tells us that we have to wait for the prince, and the prince is going to come and make everything feel better. And until the prince kisses me, I'm no good to anybody, and certainly I couldn't like look after myself in that way. And so I as an act of defiance and independence to kind of claim my own desire, to claim my own arousal, and to not be dependent on anybody else, to have my own cup full. So if I do meet someone or want to meet someone, I'm meeting them not out of a place of need. I'm meeting them out of in a place of maybe want, maybe desire, maybe just let's just play in a space. Um, I taught orgasmic yoga, what we called then orgasmic yoga, for many years before I realized how important it was. I taught of it, and in theory, I thought, yes, this is super important, and we need to understand our own bodies and celebrate our own bodies before we can connect with anybody else. But it wasn't until I was in a, I was in a long-term relationship, still is, and I was complaining to my therapist about my partner not meeting my needs for the 100th time. And my therapist had enough of me basically complaining about this thing I kept complaining about, and stopped me mid-sentence and said, "Hold on, don't you teach something about that?" And then and it's not until then that all of a sudden I had this light bulb moment. I go, oh, hold on. Why am I complaining about him not meeting my needs? Where I am perfectly capable. Actually, I'm more than qualified to meet my own needs. And that's when the therapy session ended. And she said, well, you better hop in your car now and go and do some orgasmic yoga, because you complaining about it is not going to change anything. and and that's when I really embodied it. And since then, it's become a part of my life that it completely integrated into my life. And I think that when I am able to meet my own needs, I do not need to put pressure on relationships. I do not need to put pressure on culture, on society, on conditioning. I can really be a free, liberated person. Uh, when COVID started all those years ago, through our teachings in the institute, we got a lot of people who writing to us and telling us to say, oh, I don't know what to do. I'm stuck at home on my own. I'm starved of touch, and I'm starved of arousal. And I recognize just how many people were in the same situation I was at my therapist, complaining about not having their needs met for the 100th of time, having no idea that actually their own hands can do a far better job than most people on the planet.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
and like really just not realizing what's right there in front of them. So we started offering what we called erotic embodiment classes, where people were in their own homes calling on Zoom, and we were teaching different self-pleasuring practices online. And we've not stopped. Actually, we've got the more and more classes starting popping up. We teach them through the institute. The four erotic explorers teach them as well. There are other people around the world that are teaching them now, and it was a light bulb moment to a lot of people around that time when they realized, I don't actually need anybody else to meet my needs. I can meet my own needs. Yes, I might want someone else's company or someone else's touch, but I can look after myself.
Yes, yes, it's a starting place, yeah. And so liberating to recognize also that my pleasure is also my responsibility, and I contend. It's such a liberation, and then that choice of sharing with others. I'm curious, like for a lot of people, especially clients I see, and before I learned orgasmic yoga 10 years ago, masturbation or self-pleasure was very habitual, and I would do the same, and it kind of got a bit boring, and I there's quite a theme amongst my clients too. It's like, why would I want to do that thing over and over again? It's actually not very satisfying. Could you talk a little bit about like how do we get out of that habit, that boring kind of scripty way of masturbation or self-pleasure?
Yeah, well, most people learned how to masturbate when they were young at a certain stage. They found something that worked, and they stuck to it, and have not changed it at all. And
Mm.
that's got to do with lack of education. If nobody taught you anything and you just stumble upon something that worked for you, nobody said, "Oh, but look at all these other things that could work for you as well, and look at all these other ways." You don't know what you don't know. So you just stay with this one narrow idea of self-pleasuring, and you stick with it for basically the rest of your life. And then of course, when someone else comes to play with you, it's much more exciting because they bring some new ideas. And so
Yeah.
that makes couple that makes sex with other people more exciting than sex with yourself if you keep doing the same thing over and over again with yourself.
Mm-hmm.
And so the key is education. The key is looking at, okay, what are some of the ways I could expand my practice? There's also the idea of looking at it as a practice
Yes.
rather than, okay, I'm going to wait until I'm feeling horny and then I'm just going to do something to satisfy myself as quickly and efficiently as I can. That's
Yes.
that's kind of often how we look at masturbation. But if we expand it into, okay, what if we look at it in other ways? What if we look at it as, how can we become our own best lovers?
Yeah.
What would I want from a lover who might come and visit me? What are some of those things that I might want from someone else? How could I give those to myself? And that does
Yes.
not usually mean doing the same thing again and again in the most proficient, quickest way possible, right?
Mm.
It's that
Yeah.
expansion. So it's looking at, okay, what are some of those elements that I'm craving in my body, and how can I provide them to myself? And it's about reading different, looking at books and looking at videos and looking at and going to see teachers and looking at YouTube and educating ourselves and trying different things to see what works for
Mm.
us,
Mm.
or what works or what resonates with us, and
Mm.
really looking at it as a practice that is developed over time. Just
Mm.
like if you did if you did anything else, you learned how to read and read different books rather than read the same book over and over again. If you learned how to dance and learned all sorts of different dance steps rather than had this one step that you danced again
Mm.
and again to the same tune. So looking at it as an area that we can
Mm.
develop, that we can expand. But
Yeah.
absolutely, if you're doing the same thing over and over and you've done it since a very young age, it's not that satisfying. Generally.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And the thing I love about Feast and the way our facilitators work and our whole approach is it is about sex education, but it's through our bodies. So it's like, how do we use some foundational tools of, our breath and sound and movement and touch in creative, exploratory ways. And I think that's what a lot of the workshops at Feast are about, like, because otherwise, if we're just reading or learning like that, it stays very academic. So it's having those practices to actually have a go at through our body that I think is such a game changer in our
Yeah.
approach. Yeah.
Absolutely. Especially with sexuality, you got to bring it into the the somatic. You have to bring it to the body and you have to try it out, because it might sound really great on paper, but it might
Yeah.
not actually resonate with you at all once you try it.
Yes.
And
Yeah.
spaces like feasts provide a really beautiful practice space, provide an opportunity for people to try out different things.
Yes.
And also expand the idea of what eroticism, what sexuality is or means. Because we sometimes, like masturbation, you might have a very narrow view of what that might mean, but actually it could be so many other things.
Yes. Yes, and that's the beauty of being in a community. There's such a diverse, rich community. You get to see all these other ways of being. That alone, even if you don't go to a workshop, is so rich. And yeah.
Yeah, yeah,
Talking about,
exactly.
yeah. So talking about the body, I'm curious around your thoughts when our bodies change, because our bodies are different and our bodies age. And, you know, our bodies have gone through, well, mine's gone through perimenopause and now I'm 5 years into menopause. And I notice how different my sexual expression, my desire is impacted, my body, my physiology. Could you talk a little bit, because I know this is an area that you're passionate about, around changes in bodies and that relationship to self-pleasure through perimenopause, menopause, or aging maybe?
Yeah, well, I've noticed that you know, my bodies have changed through the years, not now, not just perimenopause and menopause, which is where I am now, and all and the things that I'm researching and working with now. It changed after I had a baby.
Mm-hmm.
There was a big change in my body after having a child. There was a change in my body, you know, just growing into it from being a teenager into adulthood. So there were a
Mm-hmm.
few kind of very key times where my body was transitioning,
Mm-hmm.
and I've known and but in my personal journey, what helped me transition from one stage of life to another, from being a teenager to an adult, from being from turning it, from having from after giving birth and now into menopause, is my relationship with my body had to change. How I looked at my body, how I viewed myself, how society viewed me as well. Um, and that change has not been easy. It
Mm-hmm.
wasn't something that necessarily was always celebrated, or wasn't something that I always accepted. Coming into, you know, my 50s now, you know, I felt a lot of struggle and a lot of shame around aging and ageism, and my desire for myself and my love for myself and my acceptance for myself. And what has helped me consistently move through from one stage to another is my relationship with my pleasure, with my own pleasure, and really investing in that relationship and finding the pleasure in my body again and again, because sometimes as my body has evolved, I've lost that connection with my pleasure, and I had to
Mm-hmm.
find it because it was different, and I had
Ah.
to figure out how to access that. And
Mm.
so, and the better my relationship is with my pleasure, the more self-love there is, the more self-worth there is, the more self-acceptance there is, the more I can step into the world confident rather than lacking.
Mm-hmm.
And last year in Feast, I had the pleasure of sitting with a group of women who were all participants, and some were teachers, who were all at Feast, who were all around my age, who were all going through perimenopause, menopause, or post menopause. And I invited them to sit together, and I wanted to know what helped each of them stay awake and alive erotically. I figured all of these people are in a sexuality festival. So there's something alive and erotic in them. Otherwise, they wouldn't be in that space. So what I wanted to
Yeah.
know what their secret was. Like, what are you doing
Mhm.
that is helping you stay alive and awake and erotic as you're moving into this stage of your life? And I made a list and I wrote a little article, and it's on the ISS website. But what really what we found out is that the main thing that kept all these women and is still keeping all these women alive and awake erotically is some kind of a self-pleasuring practice.
Mm, mm,
Anything from um, putting cream, particular lotions on their genitals very mindfully every day, to having a 2 hour session every Sunday with themselves, to taking a break at lunchtime for masturbation every day for half an hour. Everything, like anything and everything. There were
mm,
so many different ways that these women were celebrating their bodies, but they all involved some kind of self-pleasuring that might have something to do with their genitals or not, that might involve orgasm or not. That just was, but essentially was about connecting with their sense of what is erotic and alive for them.
mm,
And that was their secret, in a sense.
mm,
So I
mm.
think it's so important to talk about it. It's so important to educate, to celebrate, to talk about it, because we all have access to it. We all have access to our own bodies. Not everybody has access to their pleasure.
Yeah.
And as your body changes and your hormonal configuration changes, sometimes you lose access to
Mm,
certain types of pleasure. Sometimes you lose access to arousal, but that doesn't mean you can't connect with your body. It just means you might need some help
mm.
to find your way to the body that you currently are inhibiting or are transitioning into.
Yeah, and as I hear you say that, I'm reminded of the value of simply staying curious and not pathologizing it, which is the story we get told. Aging body, it's done, it's over, forget about it, who would care? But if we can stay curious and not, and sometimes that space of not knowing is so rich when we can just explore, experiment. It's that curiosity and playfulness that are such
Yeah,
allies in that space.
exactly. No need
Yeah.
to pathologize. And yes, you might have lost something that you had before, but you might gain something completely new if we can
Mm.
keep our minds open. And some of my most orgasmic clients are people in their 70s and 80s and even 90s that I can think of that
Wow.
are having amazing erotic experiences that might not look like the erotic experience that you and I might be having, but it's
Yeah.
incredible. And so that and so we really, society has really created a lot of um constrictions around sexuality and when it's okay and when it's not okay, and eroticism, and I think especially for women there's like a particular, it's okay for you to do it between 20 and 45 and then you're done, or whatever age that
Yes.
might be,
Yes.
and after that you're over it. That's just someone invented. This has nothing
Yes.
to do with the actual reality.
No. And it's such an act of resistance, like you said right at the start, like of non-compliance, of, standing up and claiming what I think is our birthright, is our body and our pleasure. And yeah, it changes, it ripples out into our lives in so many ways when we do that.
We need pleasure in our lives. We do. We
Yes.
need pleasure in our lives. Y- and it would look differently for different people, and
Yeah.
that's okay. And what's
Yes.
erotic for you might not necessarily be erotic for me, and vice versa. And that's great
Mm.
as well. But I think we should make it I think it's important to make it a priority. It's an important aspect of living that is
Yes.
often left behind.
Yes. Yes. So this year at Feast, you were on our elder team and holding that kind of space and weaving amongst it. And you're also teaching um, some great workshops for people to explore some of these ideas that we've been talking about, connection to body, connection to pleasure, and creative ways to do that, and really challenging some of the scripts and myths. Where else can people who are curious about learning self-pleasure or some of these, where else can they go to find you, Uma?
Well, we offer erotic embodiment classes. They happen twice a week, every week throughout the year. They're pop-in classes over Zoom, so anybody can join at any stage if they're beginners, intermediate, or very experienced. If anybody's curious about that, if you go to the Institute of Somatic Sexology's website, you can find the erotic embodiment classes there and you can register to them.
Mm.
Um, so that happens twice a week. People can come and also access me as a practitioner if they're interested, and do some
Mhm.
work and learn how to create their own erotic embodiment practices if they wanted to.
Mhm.
Um, what else? Or access lots of other practitioners as well.
Beautiful. Lots of people to learn from.
Lots of people to learn from. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. So thank you. Anything else you want to add before we finish up?
Come to Feast.
Yeah, come to feast. Yeah,
Come to
we'd
If you're
love it.
thinking about it, then come and do it. And if you've been there already, you can come back and see us again.
Yes.
It's a great space to hang out.
Yeah, there's always more to learn and more people to meet. And we've got third round tickets are open. We're over halfway sold of our tickets at this point in the 2026. So we're excited for a really great year. Again, an extraordinary program again, 3 streams of workshops, lots to learn. Yeah. Thank
Beautiful.
you for your time.
It's a pleasure. Thank you for inviting me to chat with you today, Susan.